Dear colleagues, good morning. Good morning to all. My name is Elodie Fati. I'm the head of the Secretariat of the PES Network, and I'm very pleased to welcome you to this second day of the conference. As you know, this conference is a very important moment in the life of the network, not because it's our larger event, but also because it's really the moment where we come together with the key partners of the PES Network. Last year, the board of the network adopted a new strategy, and this strategy really puts a much stronger emphasis on partnership, on the labor market ecosystem. And I think we can fairly say that this year's conference is a very good illustration of this. Labor and skills shortages are typically a challenge that requires flexible solutions, new ways of working, and new partnerships. And we were very pleased to see new partners and also new sectors actually that were here today with whom maybe we had not worked until now as a network. Of course, the conference is only the tip of the iceberg, so to say, and as many of you know, the PES Network is a very active and very broad community. We have a work program with more than 20 different activities every year. And this year, in the work program 2022, we'll be focusing in particular on topics like the green, the digital transition, but also, as you can guess, helping PES support people displaced from Ukraine has obviously become a very important priority for us. So if you want to find out more about the network, I can really invite you to have a look at our knowledge center and the repository of practices, because there you will find lots of different resources, studies, papers, good practices on many of the topics that we mentioned already yesterday. For example, a study and a working paper on how PES are coping with the greening and the green transition, and very soon as well, a report on how PES are stepping up their strategy in the field of career guidance. Since last year, we also have produced some podcasts, and these podcasts have really given a voice to practitioners and to representatives from PES on some of the key challenges you are facing. For example, in our last two episodes, we've been touching upon issues that were raised yesterday. You can learn, for example, how the Spanish PES have really improved their data management system to help their clients find the right jobs for them. You can also find out how the Swedish PES is supporting women, and in particular women who are victims of domestic violence. In the coming months, we'll also organize two webinars, one on new services to employers and one on developing more inclusive services. And these seminars will be open to a much broader audience, and we are definitely looking forward to seeing you there. You will be able to find more information on all this in the chat. And if you want to find out more, I can also obviously invite you to register to the PES Network newsletter. We would really like to thank you for a very fruitful discussion yesterday, and only encourage you to continue today to use as much as possible the chat, to use Slido to make this event as lively as possible. Today, we will look more into the drivers of shortages, and we'll be focusing in particular on two challenges: improving attractiveness in shortage sectors, but also making labor markets more inclusive. So I will now hand over to our moderator, Layat, who will tell us more about how we will do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Elodie, also for introducing us to these two really interesting topics of the day and to all the resources available. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this second day of Public Employment Services Stakeholder Conference. We are happy to be here again and to have you all. In this opening session, we're going to quickly see the program of the day so that you know what is expected in this morning. And then we're going to discuss a little bit about what happened yesterday, and then start the day with our very rich and full program. So let's go over the program of the day. After this opening session, we will have our third high-level panel, and the topic of the panel is labor and skill shortages in Europe. Of course, you will have the opportunity for a Q&A session, so prepare for that. Then we will have a short break. Sorry, this is the first day, I think we're seeing on the slide. Thank you. Then we will have a short break, and afterwards we will go to panel discussions, just like yesterday, divided into clusters. And after the clusters, parallel workshops on the specific topic. So you have a good opportunity during this morning to actively participate in the conference and interact with our speakers. And then, of course, we will have a closing session in which we will reflect on what happened here in this day and a half of conference. So I would like to remind you of some housekeeping rules. We are using the chat if you want to say good morning to everybody, like many of you do, or if you have some urgent comments. But then we have a really nice tool, which is Slido. You can scan this QR code, or you can go directly to the website. I usually use my phone to do that. It's very easy. And our code is PESNet. We will launch in Slido our polls, but you also find the space for Q&A divided into the different sections of the conference. And there is also a place for ideas which could be any comments that you have, reports that you read and that you are reminded of and you want to share them with other people, or even share about your experience or your best practices in the idea space on Slido. And last but not least, we are using Twitter with the PESNet conference hashtag. And we invite you to do that. It's a great way to speak about the conference, not only with the people that are here this morning, but also with people that could not join us and would like to follow a little bit through Twitter. So this is for what regards the program of the day. And I think it's a good moment to speak a little bit about what happened yesterday. And I believe, Eamon, just like me, you went home with some thoughts. I had some dinner conversations about what happened here. So maybe we can share some of our main takeouts from yesterday.
Thank you very much, Leah. And may I add my welcome to everybody for the second day of the conference. One thing that particularly struck me from yesterday was the complexity of the issue of the unattractiveness of certain sectors. Clearly, wages are often quoted as the most obvious issue that lead to some sectors being less attractive to potential employees, but clearly evidence is that the situation is much more complex than that. And as we discussed yesterday, there are certain sectors where wages have increased fairly considerably without the actual impact on recruitment that employers were expecting and indeed hoping for. There are very complex array of issues involving flexibility, the intrinsic quality of jobs, working conditions generally, but also in one of our plenary discussions yesterday, one colleague made a very interesting point about the overall value that society places on certain occupations, which is quite a fascinating issue, which probably goes some way beyond even labour market economics. But I think the point is, this is a very, very complex issue. The second point that struck me, particularly from the very interesting intervention on the plenary from our colleague from La Ferrem, the Wallonian PES, is that dealing with bottleneck occupations is an absolute everyday task. We heard that the rate of change in the labour market is now so dynamic. We have the mega trend of great technological change. This means that recruitment activity is a full-time process. With automation, it's even a 24-hour process with people looking for job opportunities online. And indeed, public employment services and other partners are needing to invest in trying to deal with shortages absolutely every day. And the fact that they do is a re-emphasis of the absolutely crucial role of public employment services. Leah, I gather you had a couple of observations as well from the first day. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Eamon. So I think one of the topics were how training and education are key, and no one has doubt about how important they are for actually preparing people towards the job market. But it is also so difficult to predict what will happen in the labor market, what will be the future, what will be the skills needed. We also spoke about how quick innovation is right now. So sometimes we are predicting that something will happen. It does happen, but it stays there for a couple of years or so. So how do you fix education and training to these very, very quick modifications? I think that many of the speakers referred to how important it is to learn by doing, so to learn on the job and to integrate the training inside the job activities. I think that was really interesting. But on the other hand, or almost in conflict, workers are often reluctant to the change until they really have no choice, meaning that if you offer training and if you offer education in the job, it may be that the workers will not understand the value of it or will not believe that this change is going to happen. And this is extremely important to prevent action. We had the example of how in the education sector, teachers needed to learn very quickly how to use digital tools in order to work during lockdown. And these are skills that I'm sure in many schools, it was proposed to teachers already to use them, but only in a crisis this happened. And finally, labor mobility, which is crucial to deal with labor and skill shortages, because from one hand, we have the incoming, so we have immigration. I think many people spoke about it, also due to the actual situation in Ukraine. And we have huge demographic challenges in Europe. Some countries are really having an elderly population which is growing and growing, and some shortages are not filling up because of that. So people really need to move in order to challenge those shortages. And also the free market means that we need to predict movement of people within Europe. So yeah, these are, let's say, my 3 points. But there is another point, Eamon, that I think came about quite a lot yesterday, and it's the Great Resignation. And we heard from our speakers, some refer to it as non-happening or non-relevant. Some were saying, yes, it is happening. So I think it's quite a good idea if we ask our audience what is happening in their countries. So this is an opportunity to launch the first poll of the day. And so again, please go to Slido. You have all the indications in the chat of how to do that. The code is PESNet. And you should see the question. We will discuss the answers at the end of our high level panel, but let's begin and answer now. To what extent do you feel a Great Resignation is really changing the labor market in your country? And the possibilities change are real and dramatic. Change are real, but relatively smooth. Not sure. I see little evidence of it. I see no evidence of it. So these are the options. And I am very, very curious to see what the answers will be about that. And if people feel that in these last years, many people just left their jobs, decided to quit and go to other directions for different reasons that we can discuss afterwards.